We vibing with another show. Tell me everybody, can you catch this flow? We're breaking down mental class and so you know who we win. Tony Dixon and Friends. They tell me that the sky's the limit. Your purpose calling you, baby, you make the difference. Take charge, do you know who you win? Tony Dixon and Friends. Who we win? Tony Dixon and Friends. Yeah, yeah. Tony Dixon and Friends. Tony Dixon and Friends. Who we win? Tony Dixon and Friends.
Welcome back to the Tony Dixon and Friends Podcast. My name is Eric McCalpine, and our goal is to help educate and inspire you to break those mental glass ceilings that you may be facing in your life. And today, I'm joined here with my brothers, Mr. Kecalf Bailey.
What's up, bro?
What's going on, Kecalf?
You got it, man.
I'm glad to see you, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back. And we're also here today with Mr. Tony Dixon himself.
What's up, fellas?
TD.
How y'all doing?
Good, man.
Oh, yeah, looking forward to this, man. Let's go.
Man, y'all been putting in a lot of work, man. Viewership has been going up. People have been talking about the podcast, man. How you feeling about the podcast?
Man, feeling great, man. Early response has been really, really positive. And just that vibe and people just gravitating to it. It's an awesome thing.
Yeah. So today, I want to talk about vulnerability and opening up.
Yeah.
A lot of times, when we experience things in our lives, we suppress it. We don't like to talk about it. Either we don't want to talk about it because we are embarrassed of some of our life's experiences, or we don't want to brag about certain things that we've experienced. But if you sit back at the right time, opportunities will present itself, and there's going to be an opportunity for you to share. But Kecalf, I think there's been a time that there were some things in your life that you held on to, but now you've had some breakthroughs and you've opened up at home. Is that right?
Yeah, that's 100% right. And you're right about the fact that life will give you opportunities, because that's an understatement in this situation. So, but to go a little further in that, one of the previous episodes that we had, Tony actually revealed a blind spot for me that I didn't even know that I had. And that blind spot is the way that I talk about my football experience in my career, right? There's a cap on it. There's only so far that I go with that conversation, and it ends at the University of Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Even though there's so much more to the story beyond that, there's a cap on the way that I talk about that, and it ends right there at the University of Alabama. So I've had an opportunity. So we talked about that on a previous episode, but it doesn't just stop there. We went on to have some conversations offline about the topic, and where it was revealed that it's a blind spot in the way that I talk about it to others. It came out, man, that cap even went at home to where I haven't even talked in a meaningful way to my children about my experience and making it to the pinnacle of football and playing in the NFL. And so it allowed me to really, really to make some commitments, not only to myself, but this circle that we have now, man, our accountability partners, make some commitments to you guys that I was going to go and have some of these conversations back at home. And so we really talk about it, and I wish that the story was one of those storybook moments to where I was like, you know what, let me sit my son down and let me talk to my 8-year-old son about his dad playing in the NFL. It didn't go that way, man. You talked about earlier, what is it, those hang-ups, and why don't we have certain conversations or do certain things, whether it's shame, whether it's don't want to brag, but it's a difference between not wanting to brag and avoiding the situation. And to me, that popped out to me. It was like, man, why am I avoiding this? Because I didn't just go home and have that conversation. I can remember Tony calling me, and he actually asked me, he's like, hey, have you had the conversation with your son? And I came up with this roundabout story. No, I didn't have a conversation with him, but some people at work asked me about it, and I talked about it in a different way. I was like, so the breakthrough is coming or whatever.
Yeah,
And
that's what you
Tony was
said.
supportive, and he listened or whatever, but I'm pretty sure he was on the other side of the phone like, yeah, okay, this brother ain't did nothing he said he was going to do, right? And so, but I've gotten to a point in my relationship with God that, you know, I now understand the way that he talks to me. And he talks to me now, and sometimes, like, he knows that I'm going to get something out of it, and he's going to give me a quick nudge. All right, man, I told you to have this conversation to do it.
Yeah.
So this isn't a storybook moment where I sat my son down to talk about it. We're doing work around our house. We were cleaning out a closet. And so we had to take the things outside of a closet. And my son was in the room, and he picked up this football. And he said, Daddy, this football says NFL on it. You didn't play in the NFL, did you?
Wow.
So, at that moment, I knew that if I didn't have that conversation with my son, I'm telling God right now, hey, look, I'm just not going to do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I just smiled and said, yeah, son, your daddy did play in the NFL. You didn't know that? He was like, no. I was like, yeah, man. I was like, so I played actually with the San Diego Chargers. Really, really excited. I got a chance to get an opportunity to play with people that are in the Hall of Fame now that was on that team. And so really getting a chance to walk through that with him. And he was like, oh, that's so cool, Dad. I didn't know that you played in the NFL. And so, man, all of this time, and I still don't know why I've been avoiding having that conversation with him, but the breakthroughs that we've had and just the brightness that I see in his face, how proud he is to know that his daddy played in the National Football League. And the things that we have planned that we're going to do as bonding moments here. So, man, I'm going to stop for a second because it's just, I'm starting to get a little bit overwhelmed just by how this all played out. And we talk about the value of our time here in just a short period of time, this breakthrough that I'm having with my son as a result of conversations that we've had right here on this couch.
Man.
Yeah. But when you think about it, man, a couple of things that you just called out. There's oftentimes trigger events that we have in our lives. And those trigger events are there to get your attention, whether it's the birth or the death, accidents, or just things that you experience. But it's great that you took the voice of God and you took advantage of it. I oftentimes think about, some of the miracles that God did in the Bible. Oftentimes, God didn't perform those miracles to show his strength, but he performed those miracles to strengthen others. He performed those miracles not because he believed who he was, but he performed those miracles to strengthen those that didn't believe. And now that he had them in his presence, he was able to teach them a lesson. And I'm sure that now you've from what I know, you're an awesome dad.
Absolutely.
But now your son sees you slightly different, and I'm sure that there is going to be additional lessons and additional conversations and bonding moments that you're going to be able to have with your son.
Yeah, no, and it's still happening to this day, man. And so we talk about that's just the conversation piece of it, but the things that have occurred since then. And so I took the opportunity to talk to him. I was like, hey, man, since we redoing stuff around the house, I'm going to redo my office. I'm going to just get rid of this generic whatever I got at Hobby Lobby that's on my wall, and I'm going to decorate it with, not my Alabama, but all of my jerseys.
Yeah.
I've got a high school all-star game jersey. I got my Alabama jersey. And I told him, I said, I'm going to get a Chargers jersey, but I want you to help me out. So. And so when he was at school one day, I went online and went to the Chargers website. I wore number 20 when I was with the Chargers. So I grabbed the jersey so I can customize it. So I put number 20 on it, put Bailey on the back of it, and I printed out 4 different color versions.
Yeah.
And even though it's a version that I wanted, I was like, I told my son I'm gonna let him pick it out. So I laid them all out on his desk in his room while he was at school. He got home from school. I didn't say a word to him.
Yeah.
He went up to his room, played around with his sister and all of that, and then after a while, he came back down and he was like, Dad, this is the one that I like.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was the powder blue, which was the one that I was hoping that he picked. So we on the same page there, man. But just that experience of going from avoidance of the conversation to the conversation to us looking forward to doing this together, me and my son, man.
Come on, man.
And it started right here on this couch. So I thank you, brothers, for pushing me.
Yeah. But I think we all have moments in our lives that we dim our lights. Yeah. Right? Why do we feel the need to have to dim our lights for other people's satisfaction? In some cases, we might find ourselves, being able to inspire others when you're taking on a large sales role within a company. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that out loud. When you're taking on a large sales role in the company and you're over, 2/3 of the state.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, you don't nobody know who you are. Why is that?
So you want to just bring this back to me right here?
I'm just saying. I figured I'd just slide that in there, right?
It's interesting. I think, want to commend my brother on the steps he's been taking, because you talk about, taking something that was a conversation and putting it in action. When even in those moments where even personally you may have been kind of like, I'm not ready to get past this moment, God put a situation where your competitive came out, because now you're looking at a ball in NFL, and at that point, there's no way you're going to lie to your son, right? So I love that aspect about it, because as we've talked before, that's that moment where you don't meet the expectations for yourself. So because those expectations wasn't met for yourself, you immediately feel like it's not worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Right? But I think in this example, it showed that your son don't give a doggone. He didn't ask you your stats.
Nope, not one.
He didn't ask you any stat or anything. So in that moment, it didn't matter. And I love that about it, because a lot of times we put that pressure on ourselves to think, what do other people deem success to look like, right? And we think success is the Pro Bowl and Super Bowls and being a starter and all these type things. But in some cases, as we're seeing, unfortunately, Kecalf, we got to admit it. We're about 25 years out of this thing now at Alabama. but we still have people referring back to our time in Alabama. But when they do that, they don't tell stats. They just say, you played.
You there.
Right? So you go to your point. In my situation, and I think we talked about this in a previous episode, but, when I achieved this dream, it was almost like success remorse, right? Because I knew there were other people on my team, people that were close to me, people didn't even get an opportunity to make it, did not make it to the NFL. So here I am up there, I've made it, and I'm thinking about the people that did not make it, that did not have the opportunity. So at that point, I start dimming my light and talking about it. So fast forward to the moment you're talking about, I've transitioned out of that. I went through my depression, suicidal moments, and now we're in 2010, 11-ish. Mm-hmm. I come to Birmingham, and I'm working for a Fortune 500 company right there on Oxmoor Court off Lakeshore Drive in Birmingham. People know I moved back, but they didn't know what I moved back for.
Yeah.
And I eventually fast-tracked up to where I became a sales director for this company, and that entailed leading a sales force of over 300 people. 2/3 of the state was in my ownership. Part of my territory is my hometown.
Yeah.
Nobody in my hometown knew that's what I did. A lot of people, this is going to be the first time they heard that I used to lead a sales team At that point, it's well documented, working for PepsiCo, Frito-Lay, and I led that sales team that managed portions of my hometown. All of West Alabama was in that reign, but I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to know, and my reasoning for it was less that of I was embarrassed about it, or less that I didn't achieve my own expectations. It was more of like I didn't want to put to even in so many words. I didn't want to apply pressure to any other people to be like, dude, this dude went to Alabama. This dude made it to the NFL. Now he leading a sales team in Alabama, and it came a point where I'm like, it's only so much people can take, and that's the mindset I was in. So instead of allowing people to celebrate the success and so celebrate the journey, I didn't even give people opportunity to know what was going on. So here I am coming home in my Ford C-Max, which was a company car. I'm sure a lot of people like, this dude done fell off. Yeah. He done went from an S-Class Benz and Yukon XL to now he's driving a Ford C-Max.
Hold on, keep counting the cars, Tony, because I remember them now. Hey. I remember the cars.
Hey, I'm just saying, like people knew me for my Benz, right?
Yeah.
And my trucks. And now I'm driving around in a Flintstone car, man. So I know people are like, this dude done fell off.
Yeah.
Not even knowing it's a company car, bro.
Yeah.
Not even knowing that's a car that's been paid for. That means maintenance. That means gas. That means everything. When I get to a certain mileage, they order another car.
Come on.
So I've had, at this point, I'm on my 4th or 5th company car, right? But I've never even told people that.
Yeah.
They don't even know that, right? So to your point, even in that moment, God is continuing to bless me, and don't get me wrong, I'm working for it. This is not just I'm waking up and God like, hey, go on out there and keep doing great. No, there's work behind it that allowed this to happen, but there's also favor that was united in that, because I didn't even see myself getting to this point because I was fast-tracked into the executive role. And what that means, I went through a designate program, and so I was picked internally for a designate program to say, hey, we see something in you, so we think you can be an executive in this organization. And people saw in me what I didn't see in myself from a blind spot standpoint.
But when you think about both your scenarios, opening up to your son, opening up to others in your community, now that you get to do that, I think it also allows you to strengthen others. Because now, Kecalf, I think your son may look at his dad. If my dad can make it to the NFL, I can do ... whatever that is, right? It encourages others once they find out the success that you have, because that's where that competitive nature comes in.
Absolutely.
Man, that's just Kecalf, okay? Because like I told you before, that was one of the things that inspired me about hanging out with you guys. Tony from Reform, Alabama, man, if Tony can make it to the NFL, if Tony can be, a national sales director, I can do something, because I know this guy and he's just like me, and it pushes me. Yeah. And I'm sure now your son is pushed because now he doesn't want to let you down.
Yeah. Now, with that boy, though, his confidence has always been on 10, so I'm going to probably have to dial him back.
But where did he get that from? Because remember those videos I showed him? Don't forget them videos. I have receipts.
Yeah, you got receipts.
Okay.
You got receipts, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it pushes him. Even
does.
if it's on 10, now he's on 12, because he's going to come back and tell you, hey, Daddy, look at this. Daddy.
That's true. That's 100% true. And he's the one, and I love his energy and his spirit, because he's that one that when he sees something that he's interested in, he's going to continue to bring it up, and he's not going to let you forget. Well, let's go do this. He's already asked me, when are we going to decorate this office, Dad, and when we're going to put the jersey on? I'm like, son, I got to buy the jersey first, right? So that we can put it up. But yeah, no, but this is more really too opening up, for me, and just seeing how he reacted to that, and just how this carries over into so many other things. And like most boys, they're mama's boys, right? And there's those times to where it's let's say we're in two different cars, and when we're about to go home, and I'm like, hey, you riding with me or you going with your mama and your sister?
What do you say now?
And in the past, it used to be, oh, I'm gonna hop in with mom and my sister, right? But now I'm saying, oh no, I'm going with you, Dad. And now, from a Sunday school standpoint at our church, we have like a children's church during the normal service, so there's no Sunday school for the children. But because I go to Sunday school, he has the opportunity to go sit with his mom.
Wow.
He sits in the men's class right next to me during Sunday school. And I just feel like all of this is just through this, man, you know what, this story and this bond that I just shared recently with my son.
Man, because you showed your son, how old is he again?
He's 8.
So you just showed your 8-year-old a side of you he's never seen. And he wants more of it. And he don't want to get away from it. Man, that's awesome.
Come on, man. Man, this is really exciting stuff, man. And I just hope that others get an opportunity to take whatever opportunities you have in your life to open up. There's some success that each one of us have had in our lives, and there's some things that we're suppressed. But when the time is right, you will have the opportunity to have those conversations. And there's going to be light bulbs that are going to go off in you and in others. Man, this is Eric McCalpine, Kecalf Bailey, and Tony Dixon. Thanks again for tuning in to the Tony Dixon and Friends Podcast.